Hi guys, in this review I'll be checking out the Carpuride W903 car stereo display, which offers CarPlay, Android Auto. It allows AirPlaying, so you can actually use YouTube onto the display as well, and it also has Android Cast 2 for Android devices. On top of this you have a 360 camera which you can rotate 300, record internally rather than externally, or you've already got a dash camera that's facing outside your window. It's a 9.3 IPS display with all the various mounts and kit that you actually need. So you just need to mount it and everything should just run as it is on the display, and audio can be passed through using its onboard speaker, FM transmission, aux cable, and the fourth is Bluetooth connection should you have a Bluetooth stereo. And depending on how this works, you might be able to use your wheel controls too if you've got a Bluetooth stereo set up. Alright, let's see what's inside the box. So here's everything you get inside the box. You get the CarPlay manual for the display, which tells you how to get everything connected. 9.3 inch CarPlay display itself. You get a 12 volt charging cable to USB-C. You've got two mounting solutions here. You've got the sort of on dashboard solution, which is rubberized, and we've seen that in the past, and it does create a little bit of vibration. It has a pre-installed adhesive pad that's on the bottom, and this is the mounting screws and arm at the back, so that just clips into there. It doesn't come pre-installed, which is nice to see. And then alternatively, you've got a windscreen mounting mount, and that basically sucks onto your windscreen using the suction mount at the top there. And then you've got some movement and some rotation, and you can still have it rest on your dashboard. That's probably what I would recommend. And then you've got a mounting bracket there as well. Next is a auxiliary cable. You've got a right angled one for probably the first camera with plenty of cable to reach the display afterwards, and then this would plug into the port on the display. Next is a gasket which you would attach to the dashboard, and then that can actually get attached to that and give a good adhesion, or you can screw this down if you want a more permanent solution. And that's everything that comes in the box. Okay, so let's have a quick look over at the display. It's a 9.3 IPS display, so you're going to get good viewing angles once it's on the dashboard. Some Carpuride side bezels. Personally, I prefer if these were more unified. It will make it a lot more premium looking. You've got a small little microphone input there on the left hand side. Nothing on this side, nothing on top apart from a power button to turn the display on and off whilst it's being powered. Over on the back we've got the camera, which has some movement. I would say probably about 20 degrees perhaps left and right. So if you have this placed slightly off center, you could bring it back to the center of the dashboard if you want to, and the same vertically as well. And then here we have the mounting bracket here, and that's how you attach it to the two brackets that come supplied. Underneath there's nothing else there apart from some air vents, as well as at the top and at the back to keep everything nice and cool. And then over on this side we've got a few of the ports you can see here. So we've got a USB-C for power, then you have an AV port to the rear view camera. Next is a TF card slot with a TF card pre-installed, which is nice to see. You don't have to supply your own. Here you have a microSD XC card of 64 gig. That's plenty really for dashboard use. And last we have a 3.5 auxiliary port here, and that's for a wired audio connection. Over on the back we obviously have the camera, which can come all the way up, so you don't necessarily have to use it, and you don't have to have this sticking out the top of the display if you don't wish to use it. Or if you've got this mounted quite high enough, you don't necessarily have to use this camera that far up off the top of the display. But if you do have enough space, you can whack that all the way down and you can't see it out the front of the display here. Another advantage over many other CarPlay displays is it can do 360 rotation. So you lift it slightly and then you can then rotate this camera. Without getting the wires twist, it will only rotate one way, and then you can basically rotate that all the way around and have this camera facing front and center. You can rotate it to the driver on a right hand side drive car as well as on the left hand side, so you can have that camera facing you. So rotate that back to the front ways to use for dashboard use, and you can bring that back down. Obviously you can't rotate it if you have it this low down, so it's only if you've got the camera as far as you can bring it up from the top of the display. So that's a quick overview of the display itself. Let's jump in the car and get this installed and see how well it performs. Right, so we have the Carpio Ride all mounted up to the mount stand here and attach it to our windscreen, and then mount this roughly on the top surface here to give it a good stable base to sit off. So the one thing to think about with this is that because you've got this camera, unless you have it fully upright high, this is gonna basically get in the way, because you do have to have this arm quite high up, and then you can see that's gonna come into view with that camera. So this is something you want to take note of. Probably mount this using the gasket on the dash if you do want to do that kind of install. Personally, I would take this off and go with the flat mount instead. Right, so we have the flat mount installed, much better. This obviously uses adhesive, so you have to make sure that you've got a good, nice, clean surface to mount that onto. I won't install this just yet. I'm just going to have this with the adhesive plate on so I can move it about and get the best position for it first. Don't need to have that camera fully up now. It has some left and right tilt movement as well. I'm going to sit this on top, and without that fixed base, it's got like a soft, rounded curve to it. So it's going to fit quite a lot of curved dashboards. But next we need to give it power. So this is the power lead. I'll say you've probably got about just around 3 meters of this cable, and this end goes into the display itself, into the back there. And then I'm just going to pass it along here for now. And with this end, we're going to connect it into our 12-volt adapter down below. One thing I didn't point out in the studio is that it comes with a USB-A pass-through port. So that's really nice to see if you want to charge another device from the same USB port. If you've only got 1 or 2 USB ports or none in the car, this will extend it. So that's really nice to see. Right, so that's the power cable installed in our 12-volt adapter down below. At the moment, we've just got one cable passing through here. It's got a nice low profile. So here's the viewpoint of just roughly where my face is. So you can see it doesn't take up too much of the dash. I am on widescreen mode, so it doesn't look as bad as it is, but it does stick out a little bit for me on the dash. But I'd rather it mount it on the vent if it's possible, but you would have to buy a new mount for that. So let's get this powered up. So I'm just going to start it up now. This will set me now into the main menu of the display. So we've got a similar main menu to most other brands that we've seen. We've got a status indicator row at the top here. You've got quick access to your Apple CarPlay, Android Auto. You've got streaming to the display itself, either via iOS and AirPlay or Android casting. Then you've got Wi-Fi video if you want to connect to the display over Wi-Fi for the DVR functionality of the display. And then you've got audio output. Not quite sure what that is. We'll go in there in a minute. So you've got how you're going to send audio to your car stereo to get the full sound from this display. Playback of videos that are currently recorded, so we can do some of the videos. Wi-Fi video, wide mode. So that's nice that it all goes full screen. And then you've got some settings, screensaver, where you know that the display will actually cancel out after a certain period. Driving position, if we're going to be on the left or right hand side, could be on the right. Split screen mode, whether you want full screen or split screen with the DVR functionality, or if you want like CarPlay to take over the whole entire screen. Brightness is auto, and you can also set the dimming manually as well if you want to have a consistent brightness. Assist Diff Touch, not quite sure what that is for. Then you've got camera format in terms of what the resolution you want, out of 720 and 1080p. Then you've got recorded resolution, again up to 2.5K, which will go with that. Split time of the loop recording up to 5 minutes. Which is quite handy because 1 minute is quite awkward sometimes. Whether you want microphone to be recorded, you've got rear view mirror image, which we have turned off at the moment because we don't have that connected. And then you've got reverse line calibration if you've got that reverse camera installed as well. System, you can change the language. Tip sound will turn off because that's a little bit annoying. Date and time. And then you've got storage info, what the storage is in the card. We've got 64 gig storage in there. You can format it. We can also factory reset. We can also check the firmware version that's currently available on the actual unit itself. Down the left hand side, we've got home. That takes us back home to any other section that you're in. Brightness you can set at this bar across the top here, or you can have it manually and change the brightness that way. We'll set it to auto for now, see it creeping up. And then you've got audio options. You can change the volume of the audio for the onboard speaker. And then here you've got the DVR functionality, which is going to show us what the camera is seeing at the moment. Right, so that's handling it very well, and it's recording at 2.5K, H.264 Ultra HD. Looking good at the moment, actually. I think that's quite nice. You've got some play with the camera. You can bring it up as well. which is going to make it even higher. So that's it, even higher, and we can angle that camera down a bit, get a better view. So that's really nice. Handling the sky really well. Quite contrasty, I would say, but generally looks nice and sharp. But here you can lock the video, take a photograph, go home, turn on Wi-Fi mode to access the display through your app, and also turn the microphone on and off as well. So that's pretty much the functionality in a nutshell. Let's now go into CarPlay, and here we've got the CarPlay functionality that tells you how to connect. We're going to bring up our phone here, go into Bluetooth settings. Here we go. So we're going to collect there, ask us to pair, allow. So I'd say that's about 10-11 seconds. Not a bad speed to connect to. The display is good. Everything does look a little bit chunky. So let's go to the home screen. We've got our full 10 icons here, which is more than majority of CarPlay units with a 480p display. It does have a good angled display. It seems responsive enough. Go into the map, do a little wiggle. Yeah, it seems very responsive. Maybe 1 or 2 second delay on touch, but that's as good as it's going to get. So you do have this little floating icon. This allows you to come out, go straight to the dash cam, change brightness, change volume, and go home. Got a nice widescreen, so it's not going to get in the way of things too much, depending on where you set it.
Well, here we are, back in the hot, muggy street of New York.
So this is the onboard speaker, and you won't have wheel controls with this method. Everything will have to be done through the touch interface on the display. This is at 50% of volume. But generally, I think that looks good. So before we go on any other platforms, let's try out the different audio methods. Currently using the speaker, so let's try FM. So this is now pumping out at 98 Hertz in the FM tuner. So I'm going to go to my stereo, which is down here, go into radio, and I'm going to do 105, point it to 105.8. Right, so that's the FM. We'll go back in. It's a little bit wobbly. FM antenna is using the power cable. So if you were to use a different cable to power this display from maybe a 12-volt adapter, then that's going to be a bit more detrimental for the FM. So we're still at 50% volume. It's very bassy. There's no bass override here being applied. Yeah, it can't tackle the basses. So that's not very good, especially for FM. So let's just try a different frequency. So a nice, quiet, pretty much interference-free signal there. So let's see if that playback is any better. No, it's not any better at all. So that's unfortunate. That's FM really in a nutshell on a lot of these displays. So if FM is your only solution, I wouldn't go with this because it's not very good at it. Let's try the auxiliary connection. So we've got auxiliary cable there. Got it plugged into our auxiliary port, and this means that you're gonna have to have another new cable to the display itself. So I'm going to swivel this around as well because you can do some filming internally as well. Right, so we're now on auxiliary, so we're going to change it to media on the device, change that over to auxiliary as well. So we're now on auxiliary onto the stereo. And let's play back this music again now. So I think that sounds good. We're about 25% just then on the stereo itself. You won't be able to control the audio from this. It still thinks we're in FM for some reason. So let's just switch that to aux. That hasn't made any difference. So I'd say that sounds good. Better than the internal speaker and better than FM. So if you've got an auxiliary cable port in your car, this is the next best solution right now out of the 4, but the best solution is Bluetooth audio because it comes with a number of advantages. But for now, let's do a call test. Send an audio message to test. Hi, this is Anthony from CarPlayLive.com, and this is an audio test using the CarPlay CarPlay display, testing the microphone to see whereabouts this microphone is. I think it's here, and hopefully this is a good audio test. Okay, so you would have heard that back. I can't hear that back just yet. It's up with CarPlay test. So I'm going to turn the car off. Turning over now. We're into the display already. And let's see if CarPlay kicks in. And we're in. and it does resume as well. So that's good to see. That all working nice and as expected. Let's turn on our Android and see how Android Auto works as well. So we're going to look for devices. Here it is again. So let's tap that and we should be going to Android Auto. So here we are on Android Auto. We're still connected. How responsive it is. So it's fairly responsive. There is some display issues though. It's not fully round. Here it's almost elliptical, egg-shaped. So all the icons that are normally round are slightly squashed. So the display isn't matching the feed that it's been given, unfortunately, but it is responsive. That obviously took us back. And we've got a nice widescreen view here and layout. That seems to be all right. And it's all quite responsive. Back into Google, does well here. And not a bad pass for Android Auto, apart from the display squashing slightly, but it's not super bad. It is definitely still usable. Audio sounds good. Let me call the phone and let's do a phone test on Android Auto. Hello? 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 It's about 2 seconds. Connect that and try calling in CarPlay. Hello? 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 Right, so there's a little bit of a delay in CarPlay as well. I see it's pretty much equal with Android Auto, so about 2 second delay, maybe a little bit more or less, as you could hear there. For some people that might find that a little bit frustrating. Something for CarPlay to improve on in their future models. With music all set up for CarPlay, let's try Bluetooth connection. So we're going to go home, we're going to go into audio input and turn on Bluetooth. So we're going to disconnect. So now the audio is coming from my phone, and then here we go into the car instead, go to Bluetooth audio. So basically what's happening here is my phone is reconnected over Bluetooth to the car stereo Bluetooth. So the car stereo listens to my phone audio whilst CarPlay is being handled over Wi-Fi now. So once it's done the initial pairing of CarPlay wirelessly, it will then connect my stereo to my phone and then I'll get audio from my phone. Now the advantages of this over some other displays is that I can now use wheel controls. So I can press next on my wheel and you're getting straight away, I'm controlling my phone, which is therefore controlling CarPlay on this display. So I'm fully connected across 3 devices per se, display, car and phone. It's a little bit confusing to get your head around, but it works. But the one detriment of that is calling, because it depends where what microphone is being used during the calling process. Hello? 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 So as you've heard there, it uses the microphone from the phone, and that's a problem because if you've got your phone in your back pocket or your bag, it can't really hear you as well as using the microphone on the display itself, which is what we were using to make a call using auxiliary input. So that's the one detriment of using Bluetooth audio when it goes through your phone instead. But generally, audio quality wise, Bluetooth is going to be the best you can get. So if calling's not really a problem, or you have your phone mounted up on here, for example, then that's not going to be a problem because the phone's going to get you totally fine if you've got your phone nearby. But if you do have it in a pocket very regularly, then that's something to consider as a potential drawback of using Bluetooth audio with a display like this. But quality wise is the best you can get. You've got wheel controls as well, which is really, really nice to see. Hi, this is Anthony from CarPlayLife.com. I don't know what microphone this is using, but I do have a feeling that it's going to be using this on the bottom of my phone here to send anything from my phone through messages as well as calling. As you've seen or heard, the messages over Bluetooth will come from your phone, but if you're using auxiliary, FM or stereo, it uses the onboard microphone that's here, which personally I think is actually quite good quality from this display. So great if you're not using Bluetooth audio. If you are using Bluetooth audio, then the audio recorded is going to come from your phone, and that needs to be up nearby, and then the quality of your phone is going to be very good anyway, so you won't have to worry about quality there unless it is in your bag, back pocket, back of the car, wherever. So hopefully you've seen the camera recording from here. I'll also put it on the display as well so you can see it. So we're very, very squashed. It's captured all right. Let's just turn it around again. Let's angle that back up again. Seems to be handling the sky really, really well. Wide dynamic range, if it's got that. It seems to be coping all right. You can see the cloud changing at the top there. With this base, it will probably be a bit shaky, and the other mount's probably the best solution. But as I said earlier, that mount's going to get in the way of that camera unless you mount the mount onto the dashboard instead of the windscreen. That could be a possibility. You can see it's not really in the way then, especially when you angle the camera slightly upwards. I'll get some footage of this and see how well it does in daylight as well as nighttime, and then we'll go from there. So this uses Vidure, which is a common dash cam app to connect to dash cams and download content from the camera's memory card to the phone directly. It's a nice way if you don't want to take the SD card out each time. Here we're going to add a camera. We add a camera, detected, and now it's found me again. Hello. So you can see the display is much better. I'll angle this down. Oops. You can see it's much better. The screen on the display itself is squashing it. It's probably up here originally, but it's squashing the display down. It's not really showing it in a certain ratio, unfortunately. That would have been nice to see. But you can see it's actually much better presented. And if I play it back now, you can see that it's actually much more orientated, the actual saved file. So here we can go into the camera section and load up all the content that it showed for the last 5 minutes in 5-minute segments. Then I can play it back and watch it in landscape and so on. So that's not bad. And then you can save it to your camera roll. You have to then transfer the file and everything else. You can take screenshots as well. You can look up snapshots and locked video, as well as parking options as well. We'll have to see how well this performs in daylight and nighttime driving. So I'll do that now so you can actually see that played back, and then you can assess what the quality is like. Obviously I haven't done that yet, so I can't comment on it just yet. So one final setting is the streaming option. We're going to go back to the main menu. Then we're going to go into AirPlay mode, and then we've got a Wi-Fi band here. So we're going to connect to the Wi-Fi 1 to 8. Then we've got smart screen, and then we are connected. The connection's pretty rapid, quite like that. Let's go into YouTube.
So I'll just do a quick video on how to get CarPlay in this car, because basically it hasn't got CarPlay.
So that's about, I would say, about 1 second delay in the audio on streaming from the phone to the display itself. Once you've seen there, I've got this is a iPhone 15 Pro, and the screen isn't that much bigger than the phone itself. If you've got an iPhone Max, then you're really not going to see that much different. You can't expand the display, that's your limit. You've still got these black borders on left and right, so that is an issue as well. So personally, if you're using it for streaming, I don't think it's really that much advantageous between using your phone mounted on here to using it on the display. I'm going to jump to Android now and do the same with Android casting. So we're going to connect. We have to use an app. Why do people want us to use an app? An APK. I'm going to open it up now and install it, called TC Link. It's found this, we're connecting, start recording, and there we have it. So it's a little bit more laggy because obviously it's going through software as well rather than through the platform. Let's just load up YouTube.
Pretty cool solution. So if you've got an eUp 2022 or around that line that has this same Bluetooth system.
So I'd say that's probably a little bit longer lag than on iOS. I don't know why they really need to include this. It's a nice value add, but I don't really see this as a system seller feature. So I wouldn't be too worried about how this performs. If you really want to use it, you'll use your phone instead. There is a slight power hum coming from the back of the display, which is a little bit disconcerting. I'm not quite sure whether that's coming from the power supplied via the 12-volt adapter.
A few moments later.
But it doesn't really like going from an adapter like some other displays have been able to. So you do need to have its dedicated connection, and it is a bit worrying that there's a slight hum or buzz from the back of the display. I just tried the 12-volt adapter with a Android device, and it charges that no problem using a USB-A to C cable. W903 portable display retails for $269.99, which I think is not a bad price, and if you use my coupon code you can actually get some money off there to get it a little bit cheaper for you. Overall, one of the better displays that I've tested so far. Copyright are getting better at their displays as they keep going. The addition of the camera is a nice touch. Quality seems to be good so far. And the fact that you can rotate it for internal view is quite a nice touch as well. I don't see many doing that, but you do have to be careful when you rotate it. So we've seen the problems of Bluetooth audio, and we've seen the problems of FM transmission, which hasn't been that great on this display. So there's two areas that you need to be aware of depending on what you can actually connect to in your old car that hasn't got CarPlay. But Bluetooth is the best solution. If you've got auxiliary, that's the second best solution. And they also have pros and cons in each with recording, calling and so on. You did see that there was a bit of a call delay on both platforms, so that's a little bit of a concern as well. But overall, I think it's a nice display, probably one of their better displays that they actually do sell right now. The Bluetooth audio is definitely an advantage to create a fourth option that's much better quality than FM, aux and onboard speaker. So if you do have Bluetooth stereo, this is a nice way to do it, but do bear in mind the calling scenario and that it uses your mobile phone to connect to. So if you're after a dash cam or camera in general in the car, as well as a CarPlay or Android Auto display, this is actually not a bad one. That's worth checking out. All right, thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video helpful. Give us a like down below if it has, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions about this specific CarPlay screen from CarPuride. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. Cheers. Bye.